The Foreign Secretary seemingly has a propensity for gaffes, some more serious than others, which have previously infuriated his colleagues, Downing Street, and led to repeated calls for his resignation. All in 16 months. Here The Independent looks at some of Mr. Johnson's most damaging and humiliating blunders at the helm of the Foreign and Commonwealth Office. Mistaken claims about British mother detained in Iran. During a select committee in Westminster, the Foreign Secretary erroneously said a British mother, currently detained in Iran, was training journalists in the region. After Mr. Johnson's comments, the 38-year-old Nazanin Zaharie-Ratcliffe was hauled in front of an Iranian court and told her sentence may be doubled to 10 years. He has since faced calls to resign and make a public apology or admission. But his cabinet colleague Liam Fox insisted on Tuesday that people should not overreact to slips of the lounge. Libya dead boss remark at the Conservative Party conference. Mr. Johnson was widely condemned after claiming the Libyan city of Sirte would have a bright future as a luxury resort once they clear the dead boss away. When asked about a recent visit to Libya, where fighting continues 6 years after Britain's intervention to oust Muammar Gaddafi, he praised the incredible country with bone-white sands. He added, "There's a group of UK business people, some wonderful guys who want to invest in Sirte on the coast, near where Gaddafi was captured and executed. They have got a brilliant vision to turn Sirte into the next Dubai. The only thing they have got to do is clear the dead boss away." Boris Johnson says Sirte could become the next Dubai when the dead boss are removed. Described Africa as the country, reflecting on his first 3 months in the job at the previous Tory conference. In 2016, Mr. Johnson referred to Africa as that country as he painted the world a less safe, more dangerous and more worrying place than it was 10 years ago. Talked about whiskey exports in a Sikh temple in May. The Foreign Secretary was berated in Bristol at a Sikh temple for talking about increasing whiskey exports to India, despite alcohol being forbidden in the Sikh faith. In a recording of the incident from the BBC, a female worshipper asks, "How dare you talk about alcohol in a Sikh temple?" The Foreign Secretary apologized. Hollande in WW2 during a visit to India in January. Mr. Johnson appeared to liken François Hollande, the former French president, to a Second World War German general and wanting to administer World War II-style punishment beatings. He said, "If Mr. Hollande wants to administer punishment beatings to anybody who seeks to escape the EU, in the manner of some World War II, I don't think that is the way forward, and it's not in the interests of our friends and partners. It seems absolutely incredible to me that, in the 21st century, member states of the EU should be seriously contemplating the reintroduction of tariffs or whatever to administer punishment to the UK." Ambassador stops Boris reciting colonial poem in Myanmar temple. The British ambassador to Myanmar was forced to stop Boris Johnson mid-sentence as he recited the colonial-era Rudyard Kipling poem in the country's most sacred temple. In the stunning gaffe from January, Mr. Johnson also referred to a golden statue in the Shwedagon Padaga temple as a very big guinea pig and soon after burst into verse, as he recited the poem. The British ambassador to the country, Andrew Patrick, grew visibly tense. Boris Johnson recited colonial poem in Burma's most sacred Buddhist temple when the Foreign Secretary said the poem's third line, "The wind is in the palm trees, the temple bells they say." Mr. Patrick decided to interject, "You're on mic," he said. "Probably not a good idea." Mr. Johnson replied, "What, the road to Mandalay?" "No," the ambassador said, "not appropriate." Prosecco row. In November last year, Mr. Johnson was ridiculed by his European counterparts after a bizarre row about who would sell more fish and chips or Prosecco after Brexit. Italian Economic Minister Carlo Calenda said Mr. Johnson's approach appeared to be based on wishful thinking. He basically said, "I don't want free movement of people, but I want the single market," Mr. Calenda told Bloomberg. "I said no way." He said, "You'll sell less Prosecco." I said, "Okay, you'll sell less fish and chips, but you'll sell less Prosecco to one country and you'll sell less to 27 countries. Putting things on this level is a bit insulting." The row came after Mr. Johnson claimed it was bollocks that free movement of people is one of the European Union's founding principles. More about Boris Johnson. Reuse content.